if someone were to ask you, what is prayer? What would you say to them? How would you define what is prayer? I think if we just take a minute to think about it, it's not nearly as easy to answer that question as maybe we originally thought it would be. There's so many different aspects. It's asking God for help. It's praising God's name. It's confessing sin. It's adoring who He is. It's a lot of things. Prayer is a complex topic. But I think fundamentally, if you just kind of start to peel away some of the layers of maybe some of the answers we would give, and you get down to the heart of what prayer is, I think we could most simply define prayer as prayer is the communion of a living soul with the living God. Or if I could borrow from the words of Anthony Burgess, prayer is communion with the altogether lovely Trinity. That is prayer. Now, in that communion, are there aspects of, adoration for who He is? There is. Is there confession of sin and confession of truth? There is. Is there supplication? Is there petition? Is there thanksgiving? Yeah, all of those pieces exist, but you can never boil prayer down smaller than its communion with God. And that's one of the reasons why I said a few sessions ago that really the root of our prayerlessness is a lack of a love for God. But when we think about prayer as communion with God, and we think of growing that or engaging in a life of robust prayer, longing to be with Him, chasing down a sense of His presence, a sense of His nearness, and just simply spending time with Him. Kind of run into that element of time with Him. Well, how much time with Him? What's kind of that threshold? What's that, that minimum to check the box of a praying Christian? Or if you do any kind of reading, if you read of Martin Luther, he said that if he were to pray for less than 2 hours a day, the devil is victorious and the day's a wreck. So he must pray 3 hours a day, or when busier, 4 and 5 hours a day. And you read that, and if you're like me, you get really discouraged because 4 and 5 hours, 4 and 5 minutes might be an improvement. And I was really encouraged when I heard a sermon by Dr. Joel Beakey. And he said, if you and I tried to mimic what Luther did, or what some of the great, take George Mueller's, where they're just kind of the whole of their life is prayer, and we can start to think, well, if I'm going to be a faithful Christian, I've got to be that. Dr. Beakey said, if we were to try to do that, we'd fall flat on our face. We'd fail miserably, and then we'd want to give up on prayer altogether. So I guess what I'm trying to aim at tonight is, if you're a Christian struggling to spend any time with God in prayer, can you start with 5 minutes? And the focus of that 5 minutes is, I want to spend time in God's presence, communing with Him as a living soul with the living God. I want to spend time, 5 minutes, with the altogether lovely Trinity. Can you do 5 minutes? And can you do that faithfully? And can you grow that to 10? And can you grow that to 15? If you and I try to be a Luther overnight, we're all going to fail. I think without exception, we would all just crash and burn. Maybe have 1 or 2 days where we sort of do something and walk away so discouraged we don't want to pray again. That's not the watermark of what it is to be, a faithful Christian. I think it was excellent in Luther's life. But the time you spend in prayer, I would try to say, aim at faithfulness, and aim at the aspect of prayer that goes, I want to seek God's face. I want to spend this time with that thought in my mind. I am with him, and I treasure him, and I love him, and I want to be with him, and I want to commune with him. And can you do that on a regular basis for 5 or 10 minutes every day? And in those 5 or 10 minutes, pray that God would grow that, mature you to be a person who prays, more than that. Not to take a reductionistic approach at all, but also don't get so caught up with the giants of prayer that we feel like we can never have that. Can you pray for 5 or 10 minutes a day, faithfully seeking God's face?